evening, all. Welcome to this webinar by Amuseum ArtScience. Amuseum aims to introduce a new age philosophy, art science. We have been tend to consider art and science traveling into different and parallel ways which never got to meet. The new age philosophy, art science, is looking for the merge of these parallels at the level of creativity. Creativity seems to be the core of both art as well as science. Amuseum ArtScience is the premier institution in India working on this philosophy and has been organizing programs to promote scientific temper and aesthetic values in the society. Sharing Thoughts is a series of talks, discussions, and presentations on art and or science. In its 8th edition, this webinar brings in Kanchan Chander, contemporary Indian artist, to present her artworks through a slide presentation, followed by a conversation with Sushma Sabnis. Amuseum welcome Kanchan Chander, Sushma Sabnis, and the participants of the webinar, the attendees, and the viewers in the Facebook into the Sunday Sharing Thoughts on Art. Let me introduce the moderator and the conversant with Kanchan Chander, Sushma Sabnis. She's from Mumbai. Sushma, a marine biologist by training, has been pursuing her interest in painting and writing since she left his career as a scientist over a decade ago. With a few solo and group exhibitions to her credit in Mumbai and Delhi, Sushma has also been instrumental in bringing a few young contemporaries together for a series of curated exhibitions called Advaita, a platform for arts created by her. Her essays and features on art have been appeared in noted art journals including Art and Deed and Creative Minds, Arts Illustrated, etc. She has been a contributing editor to the online magazine Cartoon Art. She also manages the Art Daily and Art Pagalka, two online platforms for art writing, and her reviews, features, and interviews about art shows, art festivals have appeared in leading newspapers. Sushma has also worked as a curatorial assistant for certain high-profile shows and art projects, Biennale, and has curated a few solo group shows in the recent times of artists from Mumbai and Karnataka. She also works as a communication coordinator and art consultant for various art institutes, ventures, and art organizations in Mumbai. Welcome, Sushma Sabnis and Kanchan Chander. I'm switching my mic to Sushma to moderate this program. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you, Ajit, for that very beautiful introduction. Today we are going to meet somebody who has had a 40+ year art practice, and that in itself is such a huge responsibility, and that's such a huge thing. And without further ado, let me introduce artist. I would love to call her the veteran artist, Kanchan Chander from Delhi. I'll try to keep it really short. It's 40 years, you can't help it. Kanchan Chander has a BFA in painting and printmaking from Delhi College of Art. She has studied at the Kunst Hochschule, Germany, and printmaking at College of Art, Santiago, Chile. She was awarded the French government scholarship for printmaking at École des Beaux-Arts, Paris, France. She used to be a lecturer at the Delhi Art College and a visiting faculty for the School of Planning and Architecture, Delhi. She has participated in numerous group shows and art fairs, also has had numerous solos in the country and abroad. The recent solo show was titled Whispering Torsos at the Visual Art Gallery, India Habitat Center. She has participated in national exhibitions in India and abroad, print biennales in Bhopal, Yugoslavia, Germany, UK, etc. Women Artists Show in Mills College, Berkeley, and a show titled Tiger Women Artists of India Transforming Culture at USA, among several other very, very important and influential shows. She is a recipient of the award at Print Biennale in 1985, Sahitya Kala Parishad Award, India. She has attended art residencies, camps, workshops in Switzerland, Australia, Singapore, China, Japan, Kathmandu, and various other cities all over India. Her works are in many museums, government institutions, private collections in India and all over the world. Phew, that's quite an introduction. Welcome to Sharing Thoughts, Kanchanji. Without further
Thank
ado,
you.
could you please introduce us to your wonderful 40 plus year career?
Okay, I'm going to just start off with the share scheme. First of all, thank you, A Museum. Thank you, Johnny, Sushma, and Ajit for um, letting me start this session. I think it's very interesting. Now I have been given a very difficult task. My 40 years, 4 decades, 40 years I have been told to talk about in 20 minutes, and I accepted it because I love challenges. And let me try to take you through this journey of my 40 years in a fast forward way. So like Sushma introduced, and let me also thank her for her kind introduction and kind words. uh, I started as a painter in 1980-81, where I studied in Delhi College of Art. And I also studied in Kunsthochschule Berlin and Santiago. That was because my father was a diplomat and I traveled with him. And being the youngest, I was always dragged. So this is my painting I'm going to start off with, which is the painting I did in my college. I actually have a degree in painting. At that time, printmaking was not there. Printmaking was there as a substitute. So this is the first painting which I did in my college days. And this was also actually, unfortunately, after the demise of my only brother. So basically, I painted in oils at that time. And like I said, that printmaking was just a subsidiary subject. But when I went to Santiago, I was dragged and pushed into gravure, into paint, into dry point and etching. So I started this etching, and when I came back, I had the great opportunity to study under the guidance of Anupam Sood. I always very proudly say that I'm a product of Anupam Sood, and this is when some of the prints which I can show you. Oops. So here, this was also I was at that time in a very romantic phase. You can see that. But I would request you to look at the colors. The colors were very subtle, and they were very monochromish at that time. Um, I know Sushma is going to ask a question, so probably it will refer to it later. This was actually my happy period, so the works were quite dark at that time. It's very funny, but I can say that. But now that as things moved on, my life became darker, and my painting started becoming very colorful. So this is, I used to do a lot on women. This is basically, I was very much inspired by the women around me, my mother, my relatives, the maid who used to come. And I used to hear stories about them. So I got influenced by my daily life. This is another print which I did also after my brother's death, called The Shadow of Death. In fact, this is the print which got me to École des Beaux-Arts. They liked it so much that they sent me for that. Okay, so coming to my paintings again, uh, I was married, didn't have a very successful marriage, and I had a son, which was the best part of the marriage. And I also got a job at that time. I started working in the College of Art. And this, I started doing painting, like my son was born and I would come back and do homework with him and tell him, okay, now you go to bed, go, sleep so that I can start painting. And so this is a painting called Durga in Me. In 96, I separated. So this was basically celebrating my independence, my freedom. So this one is called Gathered Scattered Petals. I'm running through this quickly because I would like to rather talk about my recent works. I have been inspired a lot by the goddesses. This is from, you can say, the early 90s. I was not a very religious person, but I started becoming religious. I have always been sort of very fascinated by Durga and Kali. So they keep recurring into my works again and again. So this is a painting I did after coming back from my US trip in 97. I saw a retrospective of Robert Rauschenberg. This painting has nothing to do with it, but I was so inspired by his work that I just came back and started my torso series. So this is my torso series. And as you can see, there is a number 2 at the top. The 2 is a very relevant number in my life because I was married on the 2nd. I was born on the 2nd, married on the 2nd, and divorced on the 2nd. So 2 keeps recurring in my work. In 96, 97, I did a show called Vatsalya. So I started working on doors. You see, as you see my recent works, you will see that I'm a hoarder. I hoard stuff. I see things around me on the street. I just pick it up and hoard. So these were actually windows of my Barsati where I had shifted. And I had these windows there for ages and ages. And my father would come and sort of say that, get rid of it, throw it, it's all junk. But I knew what was in my mind. So I removed the glass and then I put this ply piece and I started working on this window series. And it turned out to be quite interesting and successful. And okay, so then I started working with, I've been working with kitsch, I've been working with mixed medias from very long. So like what I said, when I came back from my US trip, I started working with these beads and these ghungroos and sequins and silver leaf. So I wanted to start with this and I wanted to cover the whole top part, you know. But while I was doing it, I started having problem with my eyesight. So I just made it into like a bikini form. And this is another torso I did. Just to show you that I was into torsos earlier. This was an art camp we had done in a crafts museum. I had to work with a craftsman who used to do these Ravan effigies, and he was not able to understand the curves, you know. So I had a very difficult time to explain about the female curves. But anyway, we managed this. So this is basically made from jute cow dung paste, and then painted on top. And I recycled it later and made it into this. So you can see there are torso prints on the torso itself. So all these are basically all prints, and then I bedecked it with sequins. This is again coming back to my Vatsalya series. I painted these doors. Vatsalya, of course, it means the maternal love for the child, my love for my son, my association with him. And here in between, he did come and put in a few strokes. He would always have this thing of coming and doing something in it. So this is a series of that. What was happening was in this doors, I put pedestals at the bottom and made it stand like a sculpture piece. Please note that my earlier torsos were very minimal and very monumental. There was hardly any embellishment on it. Maximum was just the silver leaf here. Then it became, you will see the later works, how they became so intense and intricate with the works. Now this is an Ardnareshwar I did. The female part has all the flowers and the male parts has all the nuts and bolts. This is the only male torso I made in my life. It was a huge thing and I don't know how to enlarge it, but maybe sometimes later you can Google and see it. It's a little whimsical work. It's full of nuts, bolts, and it's got right things at the right places here. And ironically, it was bought by a German male collector. So I told him, I said, come on, how are you going to react to this? He says, and when he bought it, and he's bought a lot of my works, he's bought my Durga also. He says, I come back from my office, I look at your works and I get a lot of energy. So I think that's the best compliment an artist can get. Okay, see here the torso started becoming more and more kitsch. These are notes, old spoons, you know, these things which you put on the clothes, these patches, sequins, keys, mollies, a lot of things. And again, like you can see, there is always a key and lock. I love working with key and lock. And this is a grater at the right place. Here is a very minimal work. The reason you might, maybe some of you might ask me later that why is there so much of variety in my work? It's 40 years, 4 decades. I believe very strongly in the evolution of an artist. I think an artist should evolve with the themes, with the techniques, um, and the technologies. I think one should evolve. So this was one place where I did again a torso, and again you can see the bottle. I love wine. I love to drink sometimes. So this is there. This is another one. This was actually inspired by Aishwarya Rai's Dal, if I'm correct. It was Aishwarya, I think, yeah. So this was inspired by that. There's another work I did in 2004. I was very close to my mother. It's called Mother Mary. I made, here I have her and me, and in the other one I have me bigger and her smaller. And you can see at the back those two kids. While I was painting, my son Pallav came and told me, he says, why am I not in the picture? So then I had to put him there, because here he's like, this is how the pose he would have when the rains would come. He would go out on the terrace and take a bath there. And I have these lyrics. I love Hindi songs, English songs. So these lyrics keep coming back again and again in my works. This is another torso. At that time, torso is a very difficult thing to sell. So people used to say, and especially my father used to say that, why don't you make flowers? Why don't you make nice landscapes so that it can sell? So as a revolt, I started introducing flowers into my works, and trust me, those works sold. So, but it was only for a short period. This is another gouache I did just after my separation. It's probably a little erotic, and it was also after my trip to Udaipur. This is one of my later works, 2010. Devi, like I said, the Devis, goddesses keep coming back in my works. I had a job. I had old parents to look after, and I was basically I was like on the verge of divorce. So I had a lot of pressure, and I used to come back home and sort of get very frustrated and teach my son and make him do studies. And in spite of him being very honest and sincere about his studies and about me teaching, he would get bad marks. And I was like wondering why. But then we discovered that he's dyslexic. So when we discovered that, my whole attitude towards him changed. Then I said it's not his fault. Then I had to do remedial classes and carry back homework, bring it back and do it. And that's when my Takti series started. Takti is, I think most of you know what is a Takti. This is a board which the kids used to carry and go to school and write A, B, C, D, come back, give a wash, and then take it back again. So I made it into a fun, because as it is, we were going through a bad phase of this dyslexia and all that. So I started this thing, and I started adding all the things about, like his GIG toys and things which were related to him. Sorry, I'm just trying charging it. There's another work that's called Fables Retold. These are 105 works. This one at the bottom, very, very, very generously, my son contributed parts of toys which were broken, like an arm of the G.I. Joe or a leg. So these are there. And these are works. And this is basically, my idea was that every mother tells stories, about Ek Tha Raja, Ek Thi Rani. So it's been told over years and over years. So, but it's a different way every mother tells. So this whole thing was based on that. And later on, as you can see at the bottom, it's 2000 and 2009. I did it in 2000. But in 2009, I had a show in Germany, a solo. So I added. So this is basically an ongoing process. I added newer works in this. This is another installation I did in Canberra. You see, I'm quite a practical person, because taking the works to Canberra is expensive. So I made these, I put this, what do you call this? Plastic sachets, and I started adding things into this. This took me about 3-4 months to do it. For example, this is a feather. This is a part of my hair being cut. It was black at that time. And you can see there are mirchis, there are the spices in it. So basically this is something which was easy to carry, very. So this is the collaboration we did with my friend in Australia, Helen Geyer. We worked on these, you can say fly net, and these, the bukram, the thing which you put in the collar, that light, very light mesh. So we worked on that, rolled it up and brought it back to, we had a show in Canberra and we brought it back to India and showed in British Council here, Chandigarh and Bangalore. So these are the works. Of course, we didn't carry the wooden part, but we carried everything else in the road. Now starts my mixed media. The mixed media started, of course, much earlier, but the real one started, you can say, somewhere in 2006, 2007. As you see, I always start with minimal. And this was a series I did, and I do it even till today. It's called Frida and Me. I watched a film of Frida Kahlo, I got inspired. And of course, I'm a drop in the ocean compared to her. But I've always admired her as an artist, and for her strength and for her directness. So basically, I did this, and lots of things added on. Now you can see there is a lot of intricacy, a lot of things added on. I don't even leave a single, you can say, a centimeter without working on it. That's me, and that's me in the childhood. Again, a Frida and Me series. This is when I was in Met and MoMA. I took photographs. When I travel, I take photographs, and I superimpose it and I impose it in my, I put it on my work. So this is again a torso, a male torso, and small work, Bollywood. And I usually take the tragic queens, Audrey Hepburn, Madhubala, and this is a series I started. Both of them were successful. The Frida and this were both successful. It's Audrey and Wahida Rehman. And this, it's like, again, you can see it starts minimal and it becomes very intricate. Here you can see there are these, those boxes you have for pills, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Marlene Dietrich. I just love working on it. I think it's very therapeutic, and it's also very meditative when you're working on it. Marlene Monroe, Meena Kumari. Like I said earlier, I don't think it's necessary that a painter should just be a painter. A painter can do sculpture, can do drawings, mixed media, video, or vice versa. So this was a thing we were invited by the Stainless Gallery and by the Jindals, and I had to go all the way to Manesar to do these works. It was a challenge again, but we managed. It was, I think, a very interesting thing we did. So this was, again, you can say 4 feet high, steel sculpture. I really enjoyed working on this. Coming back again to my mixed medias, I'm totally obsessed by it. These beer cans you see, they are not beer cans. I'm usually asked about that. This is a wrapping paper, which is a very famous wrapping paper from Germany, Berlin, which I had picked up. And when I travel, usually people go to the malls and big shops. I go to the local shops, and I like to pick up stuff, from the local markets. Now this is, again, it's Devi Nouveau. You have the spoons. It's the spoons is like, this chamchagiri, which is happening all over the world, in all the fields, in the fashion, art, everywhere. So they say basically my works are a little like a pun, like a little whimsical. And you can see that I'm using a little bit of the, nuts and bolts and mechanical things, because today the woman is doing multi-course, she's multitasker, and the men are going to beauty parlors. So basically it's a reversal role. No complaints about it, it's fun. So you can see here, you can see the hammer, you can see these things all over here. So this was the last show I had in 2017, and these works which I did, These are small format works on the yogini. It's basically, this work is based on the Lajja, where the woman is seated and she's giving birth to a child. But here I'm not showing the child giving birth. Here it's again based on the Lajja, but the child is not being born, but there is another woman upside down. So this whole torso is totally bedecked with sequins and Swarovskis. This was also in my last show. These are those hinges. These are keys, football, wrapping paper, stickers. I love looking for stickers, which are not available now, but I get them when I'm traveling. This is another one. So all these things like this net and all, I love going to Old Delhi. I love going to Kinari Bazaar, which by now you must have guessed. This is another work of mine, paper work. So this is again of my last show. Each work is, you can say, 2 feet by 3 feet. It was a big challenge because I had a show in Habitat where the wall was very big. So I basically made this. This part was based on Nirbhaya, which later I worked further and I did this. This is another one. Now you can see the torsos are becoming 3D. It's basically, this was on a thermoplast. I started with this thinking that it won't be a hit, but it was a hit. It was a total sold out. So then I made it into fiberglass. Again, the Bollywood, Hollywoods are coming in that. This is the same one, but it's double. So the one which you saw before was flat at the back. This one is a 3D, which you can see from all the sides. This one is also for a show which is coming up. So this was based on spirituality. So I think I'm done. Not bad, right?
Thank you. Thank you. That was like the fastest thing that I've ever.
Yeah, I think
40 years in like 20 minutes.
40 years in 20 minutes, right?
That's like, thank you so much.
Not at all.
Yeah, I have a few questions.
Sure.
So my first question to you is, what one notices in your art practice, that you have oscillated between what is feminine and what is feministic. There is this oscillation in your artwork between.
Yes, actually, see,
what are the
look,
triggers?
I am a woman. So from my college days, I have been very much inspired and very much moved by the women issues, their atrocities on them. Like I said, a maid would come and tell me a story, or people around me would tell. So I didn't want to come out on the streets and, nare lagana that, I'm not that sort of person. So I took it out in my art. Okay. So the earlier prints which you saw where a woman is seated next to a window, in a very sort of like a composed, crouched manner. Basically, there are lots of feelings inside her, which I wanted to portray. So very often people call me a feminist, which I don't like, because I don't think I am a feminist. I don't feel so, but I do. Yes, I do make works based on women issues, on the women. So I think, is that answer?
So basically, it's more like a commentary on women's issue, not really feminism as such. The difference that has happened. Okay. So the other thing that I did notice in some of your earlier works, about there was this Kali series that you talked about, and Kali is a representation of the bold, brave woman with hands and a mind of her own, an epitome of self-confidence, and then suddenly your imagery goes from that full-on woman, so to speak, that bold woman, to a headless female without limbs, and that becomes the torso series. Can you explain how and why this changes happen in your artistic expression?
When I started my journey, it was a full figure, yes. But as I moved on, I didn't want to identify the woman. I didn't want to identify whether it's you or whether it's me. So I removed the head, I removed the arms, and I just concentrated on the figure, because I think the female figure, I see it from a female gaze, not from a male gaze. I find a lot of beauty in her. Beauty means real beauty, you know. There is sensitivity, sensuousness, motherhood, fertility. All those elements are in that torso. And if you travel to the sculpture, to the temples, you will see these Khajuraho Belur. You see that lavanya. It's for me that lavanya, that grace that is in the torso is very important. So I feel as a woman, as a mother, as a daughter, I feel that a lot I want to portray. And when I'm portraying, I'm actually representing a woman. There are a lot of women in this world, in our country, who cannot speak out. So basically, I want to represent them, and I want to speak on their behalf. And of course, the goddesses are always there. Kali, Durga, now it's the yoginis from many years. They keep coming back. And I am also sometimes inspired by the, like the Greek gods. The wings very often come from there. So it's not that I have a very fixed sort of a idea.
Okay. So coming to the torso series, they are not plain torsos. I mean, the earlier ones are, of course, but not nowadays. I mean, the recent ones that we are doing. They are ornamented, they are embellished with a lot of, like you said, beads and stuff like that. It's almost as if you're worshipping the torso. It's almost like that is you're worshipping a symbolism that they stand for. Is it you trying to present the contrasting views of how a woman in today's society is seen? Goddess versus sex object, like Mother Teresa versus Sunny Leone, something like that. That complete time,
Sunny
that
Leone.
entire, like, it's a drastic change of how a woman is seen.
Well,
So
yeah.
yeah. So is that how it is? That the reason? Because it's like a woman's torso is made into, a very
Okay, so
decorated.
your question has two parts. One is that the intricate part, the sequence, Swarovskis and all, is because probably that I've had a roller coaster life. So as things moved on, I started working on this, and this actually gave me a lot of solace. This mere idea of picking up each sequence and putting it on, it made it, and layering it gave me a lot of it became like a therapy. It, like, I don't practice yoga. For me, that was yoga. And then coming to your second part, yes, I feel that we are fortunate, because in India we still there are Indian women who are doing so well in science, in you know in literature, everywhere. I mean, you just had this Avni for the book of. I mean, it's a very proud thing to be an India. It's a drastic contrast, and my heart comes out when I see that, and I feel like shrieking and screaming. So I don't scream. So I just scream through my artworks. So yes, it's, and I keep hearing from a lot of youngsters and a lot of people and a lot of young students I teach, how in everyday life, whether it's the scooter wala or whether it's the fruit wala, how they feel a woman is an object. It's really but how, I mean, how, what do we do about it? We just have to educate them. I don't know when that will happen.
Right. The other question that I wanted to ask is the use of sequins and stickers, the beads and ornamentations that you use in your artworks. Are you trying to show the multifaceted human of today? Uh, I mean, is that the reason? As in your Hollywood series, where you revisit, like you said, tragic heroines, tragic queens of the silver screen. Then you have had a lot of performers, artists, as well as painters and actresses from every era. Okay, so are you trying to show using each part as separately embellished as like a fragmentation, like these are actually fragmented individuals, and each part has contributed to them becoming very strong human beings in themselves, not because they are women, because they are human beings first, and that's what contributed to their greatness almost.
I'll be very honest, I go with the flow. I basically, the reason I make Hollywood, Bollywood tragic queens is because it was always my desire to be an actress, which I couldn't become. So probably it's that feeling that I had, which I can take out. And by making these series of Hollywood, Bollywood, it gives me a satisfaction. But yes, you're right that all these elements that I've used about this is because there's a long story to it why I started working with this sequence. It's a long story which I don't want to tell now, but in short, I can say is that when you talk, because I move around with, I talk to everybody. I talk to my maid. I talk to common people. I talk to the elites. I talk to those hoity-toity ladies. So I like to talk to everybody. When you talk to a common woman, when the length she can go to buy a certain patch or a certain button to bedeck her body, to wear that dress, it's basically she wants to show her identity through that. It's a very strong thing I'm saying, which I don't know if everybody can understand, but she wants to show her identity and say that this button is making me unique, because she, women like that. So I put myself in those shoes. This was when about 17, 18 years back when I started. And it turned out to be nice. And then as it is, like it just added on. It just became more and more. And if you ever visit my studio, you will see boxes and boxes of sequins and junk lying all over.
I remember you telling me that you have also had some performance artists, performance art. You are into performance art in the recent times. And how do you view the future of performance art by women in a society? I'm talking about Indian society, which subjects the female body to a male gaze. And there are, other women, there are other artists, women, Kerala, for example, who are fighting till date to be not objectified. How do you deal with that complications?
I always feel that when a woman works on a woman's body, it's different to when a man works. It's, of course, there are, um, I hope my men don't hate me after this, but I just feel that it's like they very often objectify a woman's body, whereas a woman would like to tell what is within, the feelings within. I think there are some very bold installations being done, performance art being done. I uh, by the youngsters, by middle-aged in India, and I think they are accepted. But of course, they are accepted. Very few are. I mean, very small audience is accepting that. Because for the janta, they are not able to understand art. Since I was also into teaching, I just keep saying again and again, what we need to do is we need to give an orientation for the art teachers, because the art teachers don't know. I mean, they make fun of the contemporary art. They just want to do calendar art. You will see 95% or maybe 96% of the schools are just giving wrong education, or maybe not the right education in art in the school level. So I think there is a good future for performance and installation art in India, by men and women both. I think I don't want to make it like just for women.
Kanchan, I've seen you over the years. In 40 years, you have matured a lot, you have evolved a lot, and incredible work, as you see. And you see all the 40 years of work, and you can see your maturity and evolution as the time is passing. with the experience coming from the situation and the events that are happening in your family, and you are bringing them into your art. This is excellent work. This is the first time I've got to see the entire presentation, and I have to commend Amuseum ArtScience. ArtScience is a beautiful combination of the two words. Art is totally abstract from science. Art is something you imagine, and science is something factual. It's wonderful to see your evolution. Congratulations for your career, and thanks for the invitation to share what you're doing. And I congratulate all of you for sharing, taking time, and to listen to an artist's work over a lifetime. It's incredible. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is a question about your palette, and uh, the earlier works that you showed us had very somber hues, and then it moves to the brighter hues over time. Uh, is color an inverse metaphor that you use, or is it like a mirror? Um, for an example, like you said earlier, that when you were feeling slightly, sad or dull or whatever, or when you were younger, as you said, your colors were more very, muted and subdued. And as you have started growing older and you've experienced life and whatever, you have changed as a person, and that's the color has come out in your artwork. So my question is, how does that happen? Like, why has that happened? Is it like your current situation is uh, dictating how you use color, or is it like, I'm happy so my colors are happy, I'm sad so my colors are, is it a mirror, or is it exactly the opposite?
Well, to a certain extent, you can call it a mirror, because like I said, when I was young, I was a very uh, docile person, very quiet, and I would hardly speak. And I was a happy person, so my colors were very muted, they were very brown, very subdued. And as life moved on, the slaps you got from the art world, from the world, from your personal life, the personal, which not to be discussed, but I think that's what made me uh, bring in color. The color just started entering, and I think it's why my you can say my education in France, which when I went there, because I was brought up in a very traditional um, manner. My parents, though they were diplomats, they were very traditional. Um, there was a little bit of closeness. So when I went to Paris, it was alone, and it was like, oh wow, explosion, and that also Paris. So the colors started coming in that, and like I said, as I moved on, and the hardships I faced in my professional, personal, academic life made me, the colors just give me solace, and the mixed media gives me uh, again. So there are a lot of people who have seen my works feel that, why don't you do your old prints? I said, I can't, because I'm not the old Kanchan. I have tried to go back and do subtle colors, but they were like, ooh, no, I hated it. It was a bad thing. So I think it's like, I enjoy it, and why not? And basically, art is a reflection of the society and of you. It's a mirror. So it's probably the state of mind, and the sketch that I do, this mixed media, this superimposing of things, this layering of things. I'm happy. I really don't care whether I sell it or I don't sell it, because I think it's not. I believe that a sellable artist doesn't have to be a very good artist. I mean, sale is something very different, and it's a personal satisfaction I get. I get very happy after doing a work, and I'll fix myself a drink and enjoy myself. So I think probably That's what it is. And I just can't go back to my old time.
And what would be your message for young artists today?
I think what I also interact a lot with them. I go for judging, I go for talks, colleges invite me. It's a very, I see very good works. I see extremely strong, beautiful works by youngsters. But the sad part is that there is no one to promote them. At the same time, there are a lot of, you can say, connoisseurs, galleries who start selling artists' works, and then they want them to repeat it, repeat, or follow the trend. So a lot of young artists are following the trend, are just blindly following it. They're not realizing that they are not thinking in the long terms. In the long terms, if you follow your heart, if you feel like doing it, do it. Just follow your heart and do what is right. Just don't follow what the world is asking you to do. Just be sincere. It's very easy to drift at an early age and later repent it. So I also see a lot of good work, and it really sort of like my heart comes out and I feel very happy about it. But at the same time, I feel sad that there is no one to sort of look at them and promote them.
Right. I think we should let the audience start asking questions. Ajit?
Can I say something?
Yes.
Yeah, Vasco.
Hi, how are you, Kanchan?
Hi, Vasco.
I thought you did very good in 20 minutes, by the way. I couldn't do that. That was
Thank you.
really
Thank you,
amazing, 40 years in 20 minutes. I wanted to go back to the notion of kitsch that you brought up in your presentation, and then you sort of answered my question in your last answer. But I was wondering, because like I kind of flirt with kitsch too, obviously, too, in some of the photographs. And I always wonder, like, how do you signal to the viewing audience that even though it's kind of kitschy, it still has like a more serious meaning or a deeper meaning? Are you concerned about that? Or are you just happy at just putting it out there and sort of comfortable with the idea of kitsch? I guess that's the question.
So I can answer your question in two parts. First part, I don't have any kitsch left with me. They're all gone. And all my paintings are still with me. Okay. So there are a lot of people who criticize my kitsch work, mixed media, and they say that it's folkish, it's craft, it's blah, blah, blah. But surprisingly, those people, when they choose my works, they pick up my mixed media. So I'm happy with it. I'm happy with it. And there are lots of paintings which I still have, which I still love. But people keep saying they want my mixed media. So I'm not doing it because they're asking me, which I have not done. I'm not going to compromise on that element. I've not done it for 40 years. So I'm going to not do it at this age. But I'm loving it. I'm enjoying it. I get so much of satisfaction and solace. I go into painting, I go into drawing, I go into paperwork, and then I come back. So it's basically, I do paint, I do drawings. I've been doing a lot of drawings. I've been participating, and I do prints also. Unfortunately, I don't have a printmaking studio, so printing is less. But I think it's like you are an artist and your works are also so much of kitsch in that. And I that's why probably I just love your works. I just saw that yesterday. It was very nice. But I feel that I think I just want to follow my heart now. I'm not going to compromise at this stage at all. Not at all. No way. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I just want to say I feel the same way exactly.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, if I'm allowed to come in with a question. Hi, Kanchan ma'am. Thank you so much for this lovely presentation and giving me this opportunity to ask you this. My question is more about the iconography in your work, especially around Shakti, sort of fire, goddess inspiration that you derive. So in the current um, religious and political scenario in India, we see a lot of changes in the way Hinduism and Hindu iconography is being represented and also fed to the masses. So I'm just trying to understand if um, your work in today's time or in the near future, do you see changing as a response to the religious and the political climate of India?
Look, you know me, I don't get into the politics. I don't get into the religious, this thing. I am religious. I'm becoming, with age, I'm becoming more and more religious. I go to temples, I pray, I listen to bhajans. But it's this, I think it's that goddess, Shakti, Kali. I sometimes wonder that with what I have gone through in my life, how is it that I didn't land up in a mental asylum? Because I just feel that it's probably this, how is it that I kept myself sane? I think probably it's this goddesses that I've worked in. It has given me a lot of energy and a lot of Shakti. And like I mentioned earlier, there's a collector who has been collecting my works for 30 years. He looks at my works and he says that I get energy. I don't have to fix myself a drink. So about the current scenario, I know what is happening. I don't want to comment about it, go into it, but I follow my heart, and I feel like doing more and more on these goddesses and Devi series.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
I have a question. How do you choose your symbols? As in in your torso series, you have been like you said, there are like bottles and there are pieces of GI Joes and there is a grater and there are spoons. Where does that come from? How do you get to that? Like chamchagiris and
It
that's
comes from the daily life. Like the spoon series was just after I chucked my job. I was teaching in College of Art. It was a government job, and they just could not accept the fact of a single woman being successful, always happy, always smiling. And I was very popular with the students. And they mentally harassed me. They harassed me so much that I gave up the job without pension. So I think I don't know what to say about that. So
there's a spontaneity in the way you choose how.
yeah, like for example, the chamchas were, about the chamchagiri, which you see everywhere in all the fields, whether it's fashion, art, music. The creator was this thing, the lock and the keys come back again and again. It's basically like when I go to a shop or when I go to the market, and if something I see, I just get attracted and I pick it up. And 90%, 95%, I remember the things that I have. So when I'm doing a work, if there is a need for that, I just pull it out, I look for it. And it's spontaneous. Like when I walked down Chowri Bazaar, I saw these hinges and I saw these small windows. So I just picked it up. I liked it and I picked it up. And at that moment, I'm not sure where I'm going to use it, how I'm going to put it, but it suddenly comes back when I'm working at that time.
The only male torso that you have made, that you talked about and that you showed us.
Yeah.
What are the things that you have used in it? You said I could see a nail, if I'm not mistaken. There's a large nail right in the.
There were nails, there were nuts and bolts, there was that hammer, hammer, saw, lots of other things, which the ojar, you can see the ojars of this thing. There was the screwdriver to open the wine bottle. There were bottle tops. So those were the things which I used, and I keep using them in the female torsos also as a contrast. In fact, I did a series called Passion Possession, that those strips that you saw. So basically, that was that every woman is a hoarder. She likes to hoard. She will not even throw a pin. She keeps it that we might use it sometime. So I put myself in her shoes, and I try to sort of like represent that part. So it's like I said, it's things from daily life. It's things which are around me. For a long time, I did this series on Vatsalya with my relationship with my son. And now he's grown up, he's an artist himself. So now it's lesser because we are two adults. But like earlier in the woodcuts, I would have a small animal or a monkey or a small animal right on my shoulder or near the leg or near the feet. So basically it was like, he always being around me. So it's basically I've gone with the flow. Whatever comes, like for example, now when I'm painting, the brushes break, or they become like unusable. So then I keep them aside. And you have seen in some works, I have used brushes at the top, at the back. So my studio is actually filled with junk, with boxes of junk, you can say. And at the same time, I also pick up pretty things like the feminine part, which you first asked. I pick up laces, I pick up those patches, and I pick up those pretty things, which I like to use them.
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to know, you just mentioned your Vatsalya series,
Yeah.
which is sort of a relation between you and your son and what has been happening in the past. Do you plan to? I believe he also is an artist.
Yes, he's an artist.
Would you take the sort of reclaim the Vatsalya series now that you both are artists, and in a way that would be like sort of bringing your journey together, as artists in different times, through different times. So
that's a good idea and a good suggestion. I can think about it. But on the other hand, it's like our works are totally apart. We are very different in our styles. So now that Vatsalya is not in my artwork, but it is in my life, because we discuss a lot about the scene, what is happening around, what is happening in the daily life. And in art, I think we are the best critiques, and we can give criticism, critical analysis, right up on the face. I mean, we don't feel that, whether he'll feel bad or he doesn't feel that I will feel bad. In fact, we look forward to it because the criticism is genuine, which you don't get today. There were times when I used to sit over cups of tea and coffee and discuss with my friends, the art critics and art historians. Now they're busy. And I do still have one or two who I can talk to, and I take their opinion. But it's very rare that you can have that conversation, because everybody is scared of telling the truth. So that's the connection we have in today's life, that we can talk to each other about personal life, about the political life, the scenario, all the things happening around us, and in the art. Like if he sees a nice movie on an artist, he'll come and tell me, or vice versa. I'll tell him that go and see that show, that's a good show. So this is something which you could not probably discuss with, maybe if my son was an engineer or an IT guy or whatever. So I think that relationship is good, but that will be a tough thing to do, that Vatsalya again today. But you never know. You never know.
You may call it something different, but it would be an interesting show to see how.
You have given me an idea. I'm glad. Thank you.
Kanchan, can you hear me? Can you?
Yeah, we can hear.
Okay. So in the whole presentation, within 1 hour, within 1 hour, I think like 4 times you said that like you would like to follow your heart, and also like a couple of times you mentioned that like you would like to go with the flow. That is, and also like your advice to the youngsters was again like they should follow their heart. Uh, my question is that like even if they try to follow their heart, or if they really follow their heart, do we have enough kind of infrastructural setup for these people to be picked up by the galleries and other patrons, so that their aspirations and desires of their own kind could be promoted in the educated platforms like urban galleries and urban showrooms?
That's
Because mm,
that's a very good question. This is something which I discuss a lot sometimes with youngsters. Um, it's a very dicey situation right now because I have seen some young artists doing some beautiful works, and then they see that it's not selling. They're not getting galleries promoting them, so they start following the trend which is selling, or they start following the trend which the galleries want. And the galleries very often dictate. Can you tell me, at my age, there are these young galleries who come and tell me, "Ye pink nahi hai, blue laga dijiye." I'm like, I don't know where to look. I mean, with 42 years of experience, you're telling me to change the pink into a blue. Of course, I give them back, and then they never come back. But the thing is, for the youngsters, what I'm saying, follow your heart, is it's something which one can discuss at length with the young artists. I don't want to bore the others, but I just feel that follow the heart. They have to be clever enough to do what they want to do, and also keep at par with the gallery. It's a very difficult thing. There's a lot of counseling to be done, a lot of things to be done to youngsters, which nobody has the time, and we don't even have institutions doing that. I don't know if you have heard of Rick's Academy in Amsterdam. They after masters you can do 1 year course there, and they rip you apart. They rip you apart, and if you can succeed in that 1 year, you've made it. There are a lot of people who have done from there, and they're doing very well. So we do need institutions like that, where after you leave college, your bachelor or your masters, how to confront the situation. Of course, the best part is that you have a job to carry on, where you're getting an income, or you marry somebody who's rich. Um, but it's very difficult. It's very difficult to keep that balance. You know, so most of them get into this flow of how is this trap? I call it a trap. They get into this trap, and they cannot come out. When they come out, or by the time they realize what has happened, it's too late. There's so many people who were youngsters who come out, they do well, they commercially well, but where are they, Johnny? We don't see them anywhere, right? So they are naive, they are innocent. So some institution, somebody, has to give them that gyan. It's really sad.
yeah,
Um,
just before this, like a young lady who was in the actually among the audience, I remember her name was
yeah,
Smriti.
she was my student.
Yeah,
She just studied with me for 2 years.
yeah, yeah.
That's all.
She asked a very pertinent question, like
Yes.
regarding the imageries. That
Yeah.
definitely that your trajectory, your journey has taken to the present image repertoire you have now, like which is predominantly like laden with a lot of Hindu icons, Hindu gods and goddesses there. Like you have your own logical justification, and
Yeah.
your art also has the intrinsic, logic
Mm.
to carry them. But if the youngsters see those trends or that trend, considering the larger socio-political and cultural scenario that we have in our country today, do is there a chance of these people, these youngsters, thinking about those Hindu pantheon coming to your works or anybody else's work in that case as a sort of conformism, a sort of kind of what you call a negotiation, a kind of self-negotiation and compromising with the existing political dispensation.
Yes, but I'm sure you are seeing so much of young people, young artists' works. I do see the iconography entering into their works. Whether they are doing it, some of them are doing it because they were doing it. It's the trend. Um, but if they're doing it because they are getting carried away by the scenario around us, I don't know where it will lead them. I really don't know, because as as an artist, we are not catering to society. We are getting inspired, yes. I mean, if they make nice political works based on what is happening and what they see around us, uh, and if it's visually appealing, I think it depends on the intelligence. It depends on the emotion. I always call art a package of emotion, intelligence. It can either be intellectual work or it can be emotional work. But the iconography entering, if it's genuinely entering, why not? But if it is being forced, or I think let's not talk about it much. It can go on, and a lot of debate can go on with this.
Yeah, thank you, Kanchan. Thank you.
Thanks, Johnny. Thank you.
Hello, ma'am. Good evening, everyone.
Oh, hi, Amit.
Hi, how are you, ma'am?
Hello.
Yeah.
You're there. Wow.
Yeah, I'm there. Just, I've studied your work while doing PhD, and my topic was about feminism. And that time also, I really wanted to ask you this question, and I didn't get an opportunity. I mean, I did, but right now, again, this question just came to me that, so out of like 100, if you just can tell me how much, can you give the proportion of the other works, like other, if you just take gender studies as one, and then rest of other of your themes and subjects, how will you out of 100, how will you say that this much is how topics and subject matter related with gender studies and others, how many out of 100 would you say?
I'm not really able to understand, but I think I can just say that like I said, I just go with the flow. When I start a work, I don't have any particular thing in mind. I want to do a Devi, I do a Devi. I want to do a Yogini, I do a Yogini. There are times I've done abstract art, but
Yeah.
I think the weightage is more towards the Devi series now, which actually started maybe sort of the early 90s. You can say 94, 95, when the Devi series started and the Torso series started.
Yeah.
They started simultaneously. At that time, weightage was more towards torsos. There were very few Devis at that time. I think they have entered very slowly into my works. And now it's also the torso, it's also the Frida, and it's also the Devis. In fact, I don't want to talk about the recent works because they haven't been exposed to in the art shows, but they are coming back. It's like bouncing back. They keep coming back, and torsos keep coming back and going back. The Devis keep coming back in different forms. I have done a painting which is called also, it's Me, Mother, God. It's like me, my son, and the gods we used to work. So we had the at that time Kali, and we had the Durga. So basically it's going, I'm going with the flow. I'm going whatever comes in my life, I would say.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thanks. I would like to thank Amuseum and the whole team, Johnny, Sushma, and Ajit. You've been really helpful and very patient with me. I just hope that there are more people who can see it later on when you put it online. Thank you and wish you all the best. And thank you for letting me be the first.
Thank you so much for being here.
So it's very pleasure from the part of Amuseum to have Kanchan Chander's sessions here. Actually, we are planning every Sunday evening, 7 p.m., having a presentation with artists from Kerala, India, and abroad. So this is our first session. So thank you, Kanchan Chander, for joining us this evening.
It's a pleasure. My pleasure.
Also, Sushma.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And I would also like to thank all the people who participated in the Zoom webinar. So thank you, everyone joining with Amuseum. In the next Sunday, we will have Avinash Kar joining us with this presentation. Thank you once again, Kanchan, Sushma, and everybody joining this webinar. Thank you. Thank you very much.